One Zimbabwe watcher is Australian Peter Murphy, who heads the Zimbabwe Information Centre in Sydney. He doesn't believe there's been a coup in Harare, and he's told reporter Anne Barker that he thinks Robert Mugabe will remain president for now.
What seems to be happening is an assertion by the military within the political struggle going on in the ruling party, ZANU-PF, and it's a rebuff to the President, Mugabe himself, and his First Lady, Grace Mugabe.
But is it your understanding Robert Mugabe is still the President? I mean, we're hearing reports that he's under house arrest. I mean, doesn't that mean he is effectively gone?
No, he's not gone. There's really a possibility going on here that Mugabe could announce the dismissal of the head of the military, General Chiwenga, and it could be that Mugabe will bow to the pressure coming from the military and remove a significant number of players who were involved in the removal of the Vice President Mnangagwa last week. But if it was a coup, I'm sure it would be all over now.
If Robert Mugabe, though, did announce the dismissal of the military chief, wouldn't that just bring on a coup?
I think it would bring on a shootout of some sort. It's hard to know just where the security forces would fall, whether they would divide, some remaining loyal to Mugabe and others loyal to the head of the army. But I just think I haven't ever seen any real evidence of a division in the Securocrats, as they're called. They've always acted in a unified way up to now. They've been warning the president for several months very, very gently not to keep going down this track. And yet this sacking of Mnangagwa happened. So I think that they've put their foot down, not to assert that they're going to run the government, but to say that this has to be reversed. So we may well see the return of Mnangagwa as one of the outcomes of this. That would effectively demonstrate the end of President Mugabe's power. That's true.
How much support is there for Grace Mugabe?
I would say virtually none. She's just terrorising people, and she's not part of the Liberation War generation, and this is something the generals emphasise a lot. She's not really even done much struggle politically for ZANU-PF. She's really attached herself to the president, and now I think he's deciding that to protect his family's interests, she should take over, and that's just not going to work.
Was that ever a realistic prospect?
No, it's never been realistic. And it was never really put forward until, say, the last, 9 months or so. And that's why we've been seeing a lot more sort of disturbing things going on inside ZANU-PF. But her very public, violent outburst in South Africa a couple of months ago, I think should tell everybody that she's a completely unstable character, actually, at the personal level, and she's got really no idea about politics. So I think she's widely despised among the people in Zimbabwe.
General Chiwenga has talked about restoring democracy in Zimbabwe. Is that a realistic prospect?
I don't believe it's realistic coming from him, no. I think he might be talking about a very limited democracy inside ZANU-PF at most. The most far-sighted people in the regime might think there has to be a transition to democracy to enable the country to have a future. You know, it's really a collapsed economy now. And so the military itself, to even finance itself, has to think of an economic way out of this impasse. And the international community's demands for more democracy are obvious. So he's going to say things like that, but whether they're really capable of allowing a real democratic process, I've got my doubts.
So if Robert Mugabe goes now or later, what will be his legacy in Zimbabwe?
I'm afraid that he's pretty well trashed whatever legacy he had. He's been a very violent political leader, and he's responsible for some huge mass killings, even in the 1980s. But in the 1980s, the economy of Zimbabwe did expand. He was, broadly speaking, inclusive of the white community that stayed, and he really would be remembered for creating a strong mass education system for all of the people, black and white. So that would be a positive legacy then. But you know, in the 27 years since then, he's pretty well destroyed all of that.
Peter Murphy from the Zimbabwe Information Centre speaking to Anne Barker.